imagine you have exactly 84,000 years left to live.
That's a lot of time.
Right. You are at the absolute peak of wealth, power, comfort. Like you have everything anyone could ever want. And the time to enjoy it seems, virtually infinite.
Yeah, endless.
But then one morning you look in the mirror and you spot a single gray hair.
Oh, wow. Just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
What do? Do you ignore it, pluck it out, or do you give away your entire kingdom that exact same day?
I mean, it's a completely radical scenario, and
Yeah.
it really forces us to confront how we, negotiate with our own mortality, regardless of how much time we think we have left on the clock.
Exactly. And welcome, everyone. You are tuning into a special deep dive tailored specifically for you, the listeners and viewers of the Simplified Awakening YouTube channel.
So glad to be here.
Yeah. And if you are joining us today, please do us a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and share your valuable thoughts in the comments. It really helps the channel grow.
It really does. And we read every single piece of feedback you leave. The discussions in the comments are always so insightful.
Totally. And today's text is definitely going to provoke some deep reflection, I think.
Oh, for sure.
So the mission of this deep dive today is to explore a really profound ancient narrative from our stack of sources. We are diving into the Makhadeva Jataka.
Yeah, which is fascinating.
And for those who might be, new to this specific type of literature, this is an ancient Buddhist birth story.
Right. So the Jatakas are this massive collection of tales that recount the previous lives of the Buddha before he attained enlightenment, in his final life as Siddhartha Gautama.
Right, right.
But beneath the surface narrative of this one, it actually serves as a really profound meditation on mortality and, well, the relentless passage of time.
And the courage it takes to radically alter your life when you're hit with an uncomfortable truth. So we have to start where the text starts, which is, interestingly, not in the ancient past. It starts in the present timeline of the Buddha himself. The scene opens at the great monastery at Jetavana.
Yeah, and Jetavana was located near Savatthi. It was a major hub of spiritual activity. Probably one of the most famous locations where the Buddha stayed, gave discourses, and, guided his followers.
Right. And the atmosphere in the monastery that day it's incredibly charged. The brethren, the monks, they're all gathered in the Hall of Truth. But they aren't, meditating in silence.
No, they're actively talking.
Right. They're excitedly discussing and praising a really specific event. They're talking about the Buddha's great renunciation.
Which is huge.
Yeah. That's the famous historical moment where he, as a young prince, just walked away from his lavish palace life, his immense wealth, his family, all of it, to seek enlightenment. And they're sitting there in just total awe of the sheer magnitude of that sacrifice.
Well, I mean, it is the foundational moment for their entire monastic order. They are marveling at what it takes for a human being to willingly walk away from, ultimate comfort.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom. Then the Buddha himself enters the hall. He takes his seat and asks them what they're discussing. And when they tell him they're praising his great renunciation, the Buddha makes this rather unexpected claim.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
I'll actually read the translation of his response. He says, not only in these latter days has the Tathagata made a renunciation, in bygone days, too, he similarly renounced the world.
Right.
Before we go any further, what does Tathagata mean? He's referring to himself.
He is, yeah. Tathagata is, it's an honorific title the Buddha frequently used for himself. It roughly translates to one who has thus gone, or one who has thus come.
Okay.
It basically signifies a being who has completely transcended the cycle of rebirth and suffering, someone who has arrived at ultimate truth. So when he uses that term here, he is speaking from a position of total unclouded awareness.
Which makes the claim even heavier, really. He's essentially telling them, you think my leaving the palace was a first-time event? I've been doing this for lifetimes.
Yeah, and the structural beauty of this opening is it's so vital for how you, the listener, approach the rest of the text. The Buddha is using his omniscient memory, his ability to see all his past existences perfectly, to clear away what the text beautifully calls what rebirth had concealed.
Oh, I like that. He is lifting the veil.
Exactly. This isn't just a fable he's making up to teach a quick lesson. Within the reality of the text, this is a historical track record.
Right.
It completely reframes his great renunciation, not as a sudden, spontaneous epiphany, but as an evolutionary spiritual reflex, one that he had to hone over countless epochs.
That causal link is everything.
Yeah.
It tells us that walking away from comfort isn't natural. It requires practice.
Tons of practice.
And that practice takes us straight into the story of the past. The Buddha transports his listeners back to the ancient realm of Videha, specifically to the city of Mithila.
Right, which brings us to King Makhadeva.
Yes. King Makhadeva. He is described as a righteous king. But the numbers attached to his life are where the story takes a very sharp turn into the mythological.
Oh, yeah. The numbers are wild.
Let me give you the breakdown from the text because it's crazy. He lived for 84,000 years, just amusing himself as a young prince.
84,000?
Yeah. Then he ruled for another 84,000 years as viceroy. And by the time the main action of our story takes place, he has already reigned for 84,000 years as the king.
It is a scale of time deliberately designed to just overwhelm the human mind.
To put that in perspective, imagine being born before the last ice age. You lived through the dawn of human civilization, the invention of agriculture, the building of the pyramids, like the entire span of recorded human history, and you're still sitting on the throne today.
It's unfathomable.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. With a lifespan that incredibly long, wouldn't time just lose all its meaning? I mean, if you operate on a scale of hundreds of thousands of years, why would you even notice, let alone care about aging?
That's a really fair question, and it actually points directly to the psychological mechanics the story is trying to expose here. The mythological timescale isn't there just to sound grand or impressive.
Okay, so what's it doing?
It serves a very specific purpose regarding human habituation. It doesn't diminish the human experience of aging, it severely magnifies it.
Magnifies it.
Yeah.
How does living longer magnify the fear of aging? You'd think he'd be so used to time passing.
Well, think about how the human brain processes permanence. We extrapolate the future based on the recent past, right?
Right.
The vastness of those 84,000-year epochs lulls the king into an impenetrable false sense of permanence. When you live for over 200,000 years without a single sign of physical decay...
You just assume you're untouchable.
Exactly. You don't just hope you are immortal.
Yeah.
Your nervous system essentially hardens around the fact that you are. Your comfort and your youth become the absolute unbreakable baseline reality.
So the illusion of permanence forms a much thicker crust than it does for us in our, 80-year lifespans.
Yes, and therefore, the inevitable arrival of physical decay is infinitely more shocking. The text uses this extreme timeline to mirror our own everyday denial. I mean, we all intellectually know we're going to get older.
Sure.
But we live our daily lives as if our current physical state is a permanent condition. When the evidence of aging finally appears, it shatters that baseline.
Man, that dynamic is perfectly illustrated by the standing order the king has for his royal barber.
Oh, this detail is great.
Yeah, he tells the barber, "Tell me, friend barber, when you see any gray hairs in my head."
So intellectually, he knows time exists. He knows aging is a theoretical possibility, even if he hasn't, experienced it yet.
Right, he's keeping an eye out.
And then, one day, after literal epochs of raven black hair, the barber finally spots one, a single gray hair.
The physical evidence finally arrives.
And the king tells the barber to pull it out and lay it in the palm of his hand. And the text makes sure to note that the barber does this using golden tongs.
That detail is just incredible to me. Even in this moment where raw nature is intruding on his perfect life, the peak luxury of the palace is still mediating the experience.
It's such a powerful image. The golden tongs represent the ultimate accumulation of material wealth, trying and failing to interact with the undeniable force of nature.
Yeah.
I mean, wealth can pull the hair, but it can't stop the hair from growing.
Wow. So the king is looking at this single gray hair resting in his palm, and he has this visceral, overwhelming physiological reaction. It is a full-blown panic attack.
A total meltdown.
He says it feels like the king of death is standing right over him. He describes feeling as though he is cooped up inside a blazing hut of leaves. He is sweating profusely. His royal clothing suddenly feels oppressive and intolerable.
Yeah.
But wait, we just established he has 84,000 years left to live.
Right, he's only 2/3 of the way through his lifespan.
He's not dying tomorrow. The math just doesn't support the panic.
But the panic isn't mathematical, it's existential. It is clearly not the proximity of death that terrifies him. What terrifies him is the shattered illusion. The gray hair is undeniable proof that his body is actually a biological clock.
And that clock is ticking down.
Exactly, and that burning hut of leaves metaphor. It's brilliant because a hut of leaves burns incredibly hot and very fast. Once it catches fire, there's absolutely no stopping it.
And notice why he feels oppressed by his royal garments. The text tells us he chastises himself, crying out, "Foolish Makhadeva! Gray hairs have come upon you before you have been able to rid yourself of depravities."
It's a huge realization.
Yeah, he realizes the tragic irony of his incredibly long life. He has spent literal epochs surrounded by unimaginable luxury, but he has done absolutely zero inner work.
He's been completely stagnant. He hasn't addressed his inner flaws, his attachments, or his ego. The gray hair is the wake-up call that material wealth cannot pause spiritual decay.
Right.
In fact, the wealth has likely accelerated the spiritual decay by distracting him for, 250,000 years.
It's like most of us, if we have a sudden wake-up call about our mortality, we might, I don't know, buy a sports car or start a new diet.
Yeah, the classic midlife crisis.
Exactly. King Makhadeva's reaction is, well, it's different.
Very different. The clarity he experiences is absolute, and it demands immediate action.
But his first action is really surprising. He turns to the barber. You would think an ancient, all-powerful king might execute the bearer of such horrifying news.
Off with his head.
Right. But instead, Makhadeva rewards him. He gives the barber the grant of an entire village that yields 100,000 pieces of money, which, side note, has to be the most lucrative haircut in history.
Unquestionably.
But why reward the guy who just threw you into an existential panic?
Because the value system of the king inverted the literal moment he saw the hair. An hour ago, the village and the 100,000 pieces of money were valuable assets. Now, they are meaningless distractions. The barber, however, provided the most valuable service possible. He broke the illusion. He delivered truth. The king's reaction shows an immediate, spontaneous detachment from material wealth.
Okay, so he gives away the village, and then he summons his eldest son. He doesn't call a council of ministers. He doesn't plan a multi-year transition of power.
No transition team.
He just looks at his son, says he has had his fill of human joys, yearns for joys divine, and hands over the sovereignty of the kingdom right then and there.
A total instant abdication of the throne.
I have to push back on this, though, because from a modern perspective, this seems deeply irresponsible.
How so?
Well, he is the ruler of an empire. Millions of people presumably rely on his governance. He has a family, and he just drops all of his worldly responsibilities on a random Tuesday to go sit in a mango grove because he had a panic attack. Like, how is that enlightened?
That tension it's actually central to understanding the Buddhist perspective on duty versus liberation. From a worldly perspective, yes, it looks like an abandonment of duty. But the text is arguing from a spiritual framework where worldly administration is ultimately just a cycle of suffering management.
Right.
It's not a cure for suffering.
It's like you're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
The king realizes that governing the external world for another 84,000 years won't save him or anyone else from the king of death. The highest possible duty in this philosophical system is the attainment of spiritual liberation.
Because then you can actually help people.
Exactly. It can serve as a light for others. You cannot lead others out of a burning building if you don't know where the exit is yourself.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. The ministers, however, are understandably baffled by this sudden departure. They approach him and ask the obvious question, "What is the reason, sire, why you adopt the brother's life?"
And the king answers them not with, a political justification, but with a poem.
Holding the hair.
Still holding that single gray hair. The text reads, "Lo, these gray hairs that on my head appear are deathless own messengers that come to rob my life. 'Tis time I turned from worldly things, and in the hermit's path sought saving peace."
Death's own messengers. I love
Yeah.
that. That phrase completely reframes the biological process of getting older.
It really does. We usually view aging as an aesthetic flaw, right? A
Yeah.
medical problem or an inconvenience to be hidden. We dye the hair, we buy the expensive creams, but the king frames it as a direct, undeniable communication from nature.
A literal messenger walking into the throne room.
Right, and when a messenger from the king of death arrives, you don't ignore them. You certainly don't try to cover them up with dye.
No, it demands a response.
Yeah.
And for Makhadeva, the only appropriate response is an immediate pivot toward spiritual development. He has to seek saving peace because the alternative is to be caught completely unprepared when the final messenger arrives.
Yeah.
So he actually follows through. He moves straight to the Plaisance, the royal park called Makhadeva's Mango Grove. And he spends his remaining 84,000 years there as a hermit.
Which is a long time to sit in a grove.
Very long. What is he actually doing for those 84,000 years? The text says he is fostering the four perfect states. What does that mean mechanically?
So the four perfect states refer to the Brahma-Viharas in Buddhist philosophy. They are loving-kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity.
Okay, but how does meditating on, like, sympathetic joy or equanimity fix the problem he realized he had?
Well, think about what it takes to be a king for hundreds of thousands of years.
Right?
Your ego becomes absolutely massive. Your sense of self-importance is just constantly reinforced by everyone around you. The Brahma-Viharas are specific psychological antidotes to that kind of ego.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so loving kindness dismantles anger. Compassion dismantles cruelty. Sympathetic joy, which is rejoicing in the success of others, that dismantles the envy and competitive drive of a ruler.
That makes sense.
And equanimity balances the mind against the extreme highs and lows of worldly life. He is systematically rewiring his consciousness to undo the damage of his long, luxurious reign.
It's a deep neurological and, well, karmic rewiring.
Exactly.
And that leads to the narrative loop of the Jataka, which reveals the aftermath of the king's life. He dies with unbroken insight. He is reborn in the realm of Brahma, a higher heavenly plane. But he doesn't stay there forever.
No, he comes back.
He is reborn again as a human.
The cycle continues.
Right. He is reborn as a king named Nimi, right back in that very same city of Mithila. And what does King Nimi do? He repeats the exact same process. He rules, he reunites his family, and then he once again becomes a hermit, returning to that exact same mango grove.
Yep.
But wait, why does he have to do it again? If he achieved insight as Makhadeva, why isn't he just done?
This gets to the heart of how karmic momentum works. Enlightenment is not a switch you flip once. Spiritual detachment is like a muscle. If you think about the forging of a legendary sword, right? A blacksmith doesn't fold the steel just once. They heat it, they fold it, and they strike it hundreds of times to remove the impurities and align the structure.
Oh, that's a great analogy. So one lifetime of sitting in a mango grove doesn't permanently undo millions of lifetimes of worldly attachment.
Exactly. The repetition across lifetimes builds a deep, indelible spiritual groove. He has to make the difficult choice over and over again, lifetime after lifetime, until renunciation isn't a shocking, panic-induced reaction to a gray hair.
But instead, it becomes his natural baseline.
Right. Effortless.
And that perfectly sets up the Buddha's conclusion for his monks back in Jetavana. The Buddha finishes the story and identifies the historical caste for them. He says the barber who pulled the hair and received the village was Ananda, the Buddha's closest attendant in his current life.
Interesting.
The eldest son who received the crown was Rahula, the Buddha's actual son in his current life, and King Makhadeva, that was the Buddha himself.
That is the crucial revelation for the monks listening in the Hall of Truth.
It shows them that his current great renunciation, the one they were just praising him for, was simply the final fold of the steel. He practiced walking away from ultimate comfort so many times that when he was Prince Siddhartha, the choice to leave the palace was already written into his spiritual DNA.
It really challenges you to view your own personal growth, not as a one-time event or a single New Year's resolution, but as a series of constant, deliberate choices. You have to repeatedly choose to let go of what holds you back.
I love that. Let's bring this ancient story from the kingdom of Mithila right into the modern day for our Simplified Awakening audience. Because obviously none of us are living for 250,000 years.
No, we operate on a much, much tighter deadline.
But we all get those gray hair moments. It might be literal. It might be a sudden medical diagnosis. It could be a milestone birthday that suddenly feels much heavier than the last one.
Yeah, 40, 50.
Exactly. Or it could just be a quiet realization on a Tuesday afternoon that your time on this planet is finite, and the things you spend your days worrying about probably won't matter in a century.
The messenger from the King of Death arrives for everyone in one form or another.
The question is, how do you react to it? Do you ignore the messenger? Do you distract yourself by, upgrading your phone, planning a vacation, and going right back to building your external empire?
Which is what most of us do.
Right. Or do you listen? Do you let the heat of that blazing hut of leaves wake you up to the inner work you've been putting off?
It requires immense courage to look at the messenger and actually change your life rather than just shooting the messenger. And I actually want to leave you with a different angle to think about regarding this story.
That's that.
Well, we live in an era right now that is obsessed with longevity. Like billions of dollars are being poured into anti-aging technology, cellular reprogramming, life extension. We are essentially trying to build our own 84,000-year kingdoms.
We want to banish the gray hair permanently.
Right. But if we view the gray hair not as a disease, but as a crucial spiritual catalyst, what happens if we succeed in curing aging? If we stretch that illusion of permanence indefinitely, do we run the risk of becoming like King Makhadeva in his early years? Just endlessly comfortable, endlessly distracted, and spiritually stagnant.
Massive.
Does curing the physical symptom rob us of the very wake-up call we need to seek true saving peace?
That is a fascinating contradiction. By trying to defeat death biologically, we might be ensuring our own spiritual slumber. What a massive thought to end on.
It gives you something to chew on, for sure.
It really does. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today for the Simplified Awakening channel. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the Makhadeva Jataka.
It's been a pleasure.
Before you go, remember to stay hooked and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next incredible ancient story coming to the channel soon. We've got an amazing lineup of narratives that will challenge how you view the world. Drop a like, leave a comment with your thoughts on today's final question about longevity and spiritual growth, and until next time, keep seeking your own saving peace.